Can you do
Thank
that?
you so much. You're happy for me. Thanks.
Many places, it's even higher
Hey
than
guys,
that.
how are you?
Very
We're so
good.
excited that you're going to perform at the, are you going to do the retirement reception?
This is President Obama.
No, I've got other kids.
Oh, okay, okay.
Not just parents, but friends and neighbors and family members to take responsibility for encouraging the high school students in your
What year are you
communities.
guys?
To support them,
Oh, good.
Challenge
So you'll be around in another year.
push them a little.
We
and do whatever
jokingly
it
call you
takes.
guys like the One Direction of East. So good, you're off the hook for, you only have to do 15. Thank you, I've never come this way. I always take 63. So maybe this way is shorter. Oh, I don't know, but I was like racing behind you because I was like, if I lose him, I don't know how to get there unless I go 63. Here we go.
Stand by. Three, two, one.
Hey everybody, Tara Thomas, Waterloo Schools Communications Director. Always a pleasure to join the KBBG listening audience. I apologize that my voice is even deeper than normal. I'm going with the female, very white today due to being a little bit under the weather, so bear with me as the octave is a little lower. I am so excited to share with you a couple unique perspectives today. We have first Dr. Willie Barney, a longtime district employee, who's going to talk athletics. And then the second half of this half hour, stick around, we have what I like to call the One Direction of East High on deck, the boy band that will be sharing some of their talents with you over the airwaves. So please stick around for that. First up, Dr. Barney, a longtime employee, as I mentioned, used to head up East High School as the head administrator, now is working out of the Educational Service Center as a higher level district administrator, and in his purview includes athletics. So welcome.
Thank you.
So talk about what landed you in Waterloo Schools. Your history is long in the Cedar Valley in that you both grew up in this area and then went on to play football for the University of Northern Iowa.
I had the opportunity to work in a number of capacities, volunteering with some of the youth things throughout the Cedar Valley. And then, as you mentioned, once we got done, both my wife and I's families were from the area. I was born at Schoitz many moons ago. So from the area, and just decided that we had a great opportunity to impact the area. Was a guidance counselor in the Waterloo district prior to going to Iowa City, and then left and returned when I had the opportunity to take over East High School. And it was a great opportunity to come back to where my family and friends were located.
So talk about your role now that includes athletics and how that is a large task in that we have so many different sports and so many different students and really coaches to manage, many of whom are not within the district.
Right. Back in 2013, the school board, although athletics has been a priority in the district for a long time, the school board requested a commitment from the current superintendent at that time to increase the priority, to increase the competitiveness of our programs, but also to increase the quality of opportunities for our students. And so when you start looking at those things, you begin to realize that it's much more than just a K-12 endeavor. It's actually an endeavor to reach out to programs and organizations that are within the community and how they impact the programming as well.
And when you talk about those organizations, how important is it that communities that have youth sports opportunities available outside of the traditional school setting, how important is that in terms of feeding, you know, kids that have a little bit of knowledge and can hopefully compete at the level that we're seeing in other districts around the state?
Well, what we know is that our schools offer programming outside of physical education classes. Our schools offer programming that starts in 7th grade. So realistically, most kids' athletic exposure, especially in today's standards, is taking place much earlier than 7th grade. It's not impossible for a 7th grader, or for that matter a 12th grader, to walk into an athletic arena and find some success, but what you know is that many of the fundamental skills are being developed at an earlier and earlier age. And so we've got a lot of kids that are beginning to choose and select down the number of sports that they're going to participate in. So instead of having a student who's involved in a fall winter, spring, and summer sport. You have many more kids that are involved in one sport for school, but they compete in that sport year-round, and they end up giving up on some of those other ones. And so we recognize that there are a number of experiences that are happening before kids enter into 7th grade in athletics that we need to start tapping into and connecting with. We were talking about, I just had a swim meeting just the other day with girls swimming and parents across the district. And what we know with a club sport like that, parents have to get those kids into the pool at a much earlier age, because walking in 10th grade, yeah, sure, you may be able to get into a pool, but the level of intensity that belonging on a swim team takes is pretty tough, and it's tough for that to be your first competitive swim experience. And so with a lot of those club sports, those kids are picking up golf clubs at an early age, and for that matter, basketball players. The fundamental skills to be a successful basketball player, if you want to continue to play after high school, it's got to start before you walk into 7th grade.
If you're just joining us, this is Tara Thomas with Waterloo Schools. You're hearing the voice of Dr. Willie Barney. He's a longtime Waterloo administrator who, among his other duties, oversees athletics in the district. When you look at coaching, you talk about how many people really volunteer in a lot of the programs in our area, but to actually get accredited, so to speak, in this state, there is somewhat of a unique process in that people actually do have to almost take a test, right, if they don't have that certification. For somebody listening, you know, who's going to say, okay, I have the skill set, I have the background, what's it going to take for him or her to land a volunteer or a paid opportunity to coach in our district? Can you walk them through that? From
a volunteer standpoint, the criteria obviously is the coaching endorsement. We are working right now with the local AEA to be able to establish that coaching licensure process to make it a little more fluid here locally. But right now you would have to take a set number of courses through the state or through AEA or through a college that allows you to basically, the state say that you're certified to coach. But after that, after those courses are completed, volunteering wise, we'll take all the volunteers we can get. The tough part is we've really begun to move in our district from just having a body in place. So there's a number of positions that we may have opening for coaching. And you'll see people apply for it. And there's that commercial at one time that was out where a guy is standing outside of an operating room, and they say, you know, how long have you been a doctor? Oh, I'm not, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn. Well, unfortunately, we have a number of folks that coaching is kind of the same way. They walked by a football field once, therefore they believe they can coach football. And so we really have, it's been tough over the years because we've got a lot of folks who've come into some coaching positions who may not necessarily know very much about that sport, but on the plus side, they've made great connections with kids, and they're good people to have around kids. So we have that, but we don't necessarily have that sports expertise that we're needing. And so we're needing more and more folks who have that sport expertise. Recently, we were trying to hire for a track coach, and we had a situation where the specifics that we needed for that position was we needed somebody who could teach hurdling, and we needed somebody who could teach high jumping. Those are very specific skills that somebody would have, and it makes it tough because people get frustrated and think, well, why don't you hire me? Well, have you ever run track? No, I've never run track. Well, how much do you know about high jump? Well, not a whole lot about high jump, but I like track, and I think track's a great thing. And I think that is where those volunteer folks come in handy, because then they can get the skills and begin to develop the skills by being around the sport and learning and going to clinics and those kind of things to grow within that. But we really do need folks who have a strong mastery of the sport and can add to that as well. But again, I want to make it clear, we're looking for volunteers, we're looking for paid folks, we're looking for everybody who can make a difference in the lives of our kids.
And when you talk about the impact on young people, I would be missing an important point here if I didn't share that you personally were very positively impacted by your involvement with athletics. It's something that I know you've spoken publicly about to young people in terms of how having mentors as coaches and other key people in your life helped you to stay on track, not just in terms of athletic achievement, but in terms of personal growth and really academic success that ultimately led to you getting your doctorate and becoming an administrator as an African-American male. Talk about why that is such a pivotal experience for young people, especially young boys, to have the guidance and the leadership from coaches.
You know, what I don't think we realize is that each time we interact with somebody, we make an impression, good or bad. And for me, the most impactful males in my life, growing up with the absence of my father, were my coaches. When you have folks that you spend so much time with, that you're engaged with, mentoring, guiding, providing advice, that's a pretty key piece. And one of the things that I talk about, the importance of athletics, is that the statistics are very clear that young folks who are involved in extracurricular activities are more likely to graduate from high school. They're less likely to get involved in substances abuse of alcohol and drugs. They're less likely to be arrested. They're less likely to drop out if they're obviously more likely to graduate. And from a female standpoint, they're less likely to end up pregnant prior to completing school. So we know that extracurriculars are a huge piece of making an impact on our community and getting kids involved. And so when we have those folks and we have those adults who are taking that time to invest in the future, it also lays a platform for those young adults when they become adults to turn around and give back as well. So it's a reoccurring cycle. So as people pour into you, you pour into others, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and well said. Talk about, in a, I guess, concise way, what are some of these recommendations that you and these other folks have worked on when you talk about this charge to really make athletics in Waterloo schools more of a priority? I know you've come to some conclusions.
Well, so in 2013, when the school board reached out to the superintendent, they established an athletic committee. And that athletic committee was made up of members from around the community, business partners, people at the university level, past athletic giants from our community, just a wide range of folks who were invested in athletics. And so there was a number of recommendations that came forth that were focused on establishing connections with the current youth sports in our areas, focused on high school sports and policies, and then also focused on middle school athletics and adjustments that need to be made, and then some coaching adjustments. So some of the things that really stand out, which I'd really like to make an outreach to, is we on our website are going to begin to establish a link that basically all things sports related in our community, in which we don't care whether you're a not-for-profit or whether you're an organization that's out to make profit. The focus is we want our families and our community members to be aware of what athletic opportunities are available to kids. So whether it's hockey, whether it's volleyball, basketball, wrestling, dance, swimming, golf, martial arts, you name it, we want those folks to reach out and contact the district so that we can get that information posted up on our site. We're not endorsing any of those organizations. It's really up to families to review those organizations to identify what's the right fit for their families. But that's our first piece, to reach out to the youth sports. What we've discovered is youth football for those third and fourth graders, fifth and sixth graders. Every year that pops up, and every year we have families that it's already started and they're asking because that information wasn't distributed very widely enough. I have coached 2 sons through that process, and I have a third who's up now, and guess what? As a parent in the community, I was unaware that they just had the registration night a week ago. So we have those kind of things that are happening, and I'm a very aware and very engaged parent, but yet we didn't have any of that information to be able to get out to our families. So I think it's those kind of things that we want to emphasize. So that's the youth sports piece, and making sure that and I really think we've done a good job of making sure we've made programming. We've started a number of junior Wallhawk, junior Trojan programs, and making our facilities available to those organizations at a first choice opportunity. And then we've been reaching out to make our facilities available to others as well. So that's on the elementary level or the youth level. We're also looking at starting extramural opportunities for our 5th and 6th graders to kind of get an earlier exposure to a number of the team sports and individual sports to get kids involved, so that maybe before 7th grade they've already had some good quality experiences. So then we start talking about at the middle school level. One of the things that we've done is made sure that we're moving closer and closer to a place of saying, if you're a coach in our district, you are a member of a 7-12 athletic team, meaning that the high school varsity coach is just as much responsible for making sure you're doing a good job at the middle school level as they are for making sure it's happening at the high school. So instead of saying, oh, I'm going to get hired as a 7th grade coach and I'm going to just do my own thing, no, you're going to be a part of a system of expectations because you're feeding those varsity programs. So that's a major part of things we've done in the school. So middle school wise, reducing the coach to athlete ratios is one of our focus areas. Then at the high school level, and at the middle school as well, it's making sure we got the right coaches in the right place. Remember I said earlier, we've got folks that they make great connections with kids, which is awesome, but we also got to make sure we've got folks with sport expertise coaching those sports. So I may have been a great and phenomenal basketball player, but never played football, didn't have a whole lot of interest in football. And if you move me into a coaching position of football, that makes it kind of tough if I don't have that coaching expertise to be able to teach the skills that are associated. So we're making some of those adjustments as well to make sure we got folks in the right position. And if they don't have the skill set, we're making sure that we're sending them up to work with those varsity coaches, making sure they're participating in camps, all those other things to build their skill set up, to build our kids' skill set up. And then finally at the high school level, it's really making sure that we are doing that complete wraparound and make sure we have enough coaches available to work with kids. So we've been increasing the number of coaches with those sports. And one of the key pieces that we've begun to do here recently is we're looking and evaluating all of our sports district-wide to make sure that there's 4 things that are happening. Number one, we want to make sure that our programs are providing, that we have that they're getting the most quality experience and that they are having the most competitive experience possible. The second place that we're working on is making sure that our numbers and our pieces are together to make sure that we're providing a competitive experience for our competition. We've discovered with some sports, we got some places where they don't want to send their varsity programs to compete against us. They want to send their JV programs because they don't feel like it's going to be a very competitive experience based on numbers, based on whatever it may be. So we want to make sure those 2 things are in place. Thirdly, we want to make sure that we're having kids play at developmentally appropriate levels. Over the years, because numbers were low, we take a 6-foot-tall freshman girl basketball player and we throw her out there to the wolves at the varsity level, and she never learns how to dribble with her left hand. She never learns how to do any of the fundamental things that she would be able to do if she was competing against other girls her own age, and then it's slowly developing to an appropriate place so that when she's a junior and senior, she's able to dominate folks because she was able to dominate as a freshman versus going out there and being dominated for 4 years straight. So we're looking at that. And then the last area is making sure that we're being financially responsible and making sure that if we've got places where we've only got 4 student athletes in one building and 5 student athletes in another building, and it takes 10 to have a team, that we're not going to say we're going to have 2 separate coaches, 2 separate schedules, 2 separate busings, 2 separate this, 2 separate that in those places we are going to combine together and begin looking at a metro team. In the past, the dialogue was East had 9 girls, West had 8 girls, so we're going to make one team between the 2 of them, and because East had 1 girl more, they all need to become Trojans. We've learned that in this community, that Wahawk and that Trojan is a pretty big deal. And so to get folks to drop their flag and pick up another flag is kind of tough. So what we've said is, in those situations where numbers are so low, in order for us to have a program and we need to combine, it's going to be one combined metro program representing both buildings and making sure that they're representing Waterloo, which is really what we're all about. Waterloo is on the front side of everything, and so that'll be kind of our move forward.
Well, it's so exciting to hear all of this, and I know for the young people that we're going to hear from in a moment, they're both musicians and some athletes, so it's great to know that you and all these folks behind the scenes are working to help make their experience even that much more enhanced. Yes. So, sorry for the voice crack there. So congratulations to all of the committee members for the athletic recommendations, and we just are excited to see what's to come. Thanks so much to Dr. Willie Barney for spending some time with us, and we'll be right back with the East High Boy Band.